What's up, Soul Family? Coming at you with another collective reading. This one's gonna be on. We have Mountain Road again with You Are on the Road to Success. If you're interested in a one-on-one reading, you can do so by directly messaging me or with the link in the bio or description. And the first reading is $35 for up to 20 minutes. And you can ask whatever question you want during that time frame, or I can pull and see what comes out. And if it doesn't resonate, then I'll simply refund you. That being said, so we have December, Tiger with doing something risky, taking a chance. And then we have Dark Man, which is dealings or relationships with a man with a dark complexion or hair. So already I'm feeling like there's some kind of resolution coming or happening all the way in December. So I wouldn't say all the way, it's only a couple more months from now. So it looks like there's some kind of chapter closing out or things working out in your favor by that time. I got like 3, I think. I only got 2. So the 4 of Swords and 9 of Swords. So maybe you're being called to, even if it doesn't seem like a good idea, to maybe take it easy and rest a little bit. And I think that's going to, for whatever reason, maybe give you anxiety and maybe feel like a little bit stressful. But I think maybe the goal is to learn how to start allowing yourself to receive while also being in states of rest versus always having to be super active. That, or maybe it's calling for you to rest because you've been having so much anxiety and because you've been having so much on your mind and because you've been stressed and going through all these different things. Maybe it's a call to rest because you're burning out and your mind needs that chance to recover. We have the Queen of Cups. So the Queen of Cups definitely has a lot to do with trusting like how we connect to our emotions and trusting that even if we have intense feelings and emotions, that it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's just a matter of how we deal with it. And the Queen of Cups, I'd like to believe, is able to still manage, while of course processing and feeling. I think she still manages to pull through. It's the energy of somebody who, it's because they're so in tune with their emotions and how they're feeling and stuff like that, that they allow themselves to feel it to the fullest. And they're not like, you don't shame yourself for it. You allow yourself to meet those things with compassion and patience and not really forcing yourself to try and feel anything else. I think one of the most dangerous things we can do in manifestation is trying to be positive all the time, or trying to ignore our negative emotions, or trying to stifle or stuff things down. Sometimes we go through things that simply need to be felt, processed, or dealt with in a certain way, and there's nothing wrong with acknowledging it. I will forever say the people who have always been like super love and light in my experience have been some of the most like deluded and toxic individuals, and not the good kind of deluded. I'm talking about the deluded, but you ain't manifesting shit. The deluded, but you're not grounded. You're not pulling anything in from the ethers. The deluded that you are just detrimental to you and those around you. So, and then we have the Tower card. So especially if you're going through a tower moment, like all you could really do sometimes is just be kind to yourself, because these things can be very difficult to traverse. When tower moments happen, again, it's like sudden amounts of change and upheaval to the point in which our old reality is pretty much breaking down and then it's being restructured like brick by brick sometimes. So it's not always a very fun process, but I think being as kind to ourselves during the process is the best thing you can do. And I think that is how, of course, we get to succeeding. It's like by having our bricks being rebuilt piece by piece by piece. Like that's how we're building the path to success, because the old paradigms, the old things that we were experiencing simply could not continue. And then we have Death again. So then both of these cards are like the biggest cards of change and transformation. So there are deep levels of things that are shifting in your experience. And when things are changing, it's not always going to be smooth. But I think as well, one of the things that I've heard that I try to remember every time I'm going through like being really frustrated with the situations that I'm in, I just try to remind myself of this quote that I heard where it's like, how do you know if this isn't the fastest path to your manifestation? And sometimes the fastest path, it's like a mountain road. Sometimes it's having to cross a damn mountain to get to where you gotta get to. And hey, people, it's not like crossing a mountain's easy. I think it's important to note that like even like a Mount Everest and even just other mountains in general, like, it's dangerous. People die. It's not like I'm saying this is something that is light or easy. You know what I mean? These experiences can be very, very heavy on exactly, very heavy on our hearts. If heavy on the being, heavy on our hearts, and then the Three of Swords comes out. So, and I really wasn't just saying that because this came out. I just had I misspoke. But the Three of Swords is quite literally about having undergone like a lot of things that will give us grief or heartbreak, and having to heal from it and having the time to process those things. It's like we have the Tower card, then the Death card, and then we also have, or I'm sorry, we have the Tower and the Death card. So with the Queen of Cups and now the Three of Swords, it's pointing towards like really allowing yourself to be compassionate through these experiences and not really judging yourself, and really allowing yourself to understand that, yeah, these things were actually heavy things. I think sometimes maybe we gaslight ourselves, or at least I know sometimes I can gaslight myself out of the severity of the things that I've gone through and try to kind of downplay that. And I get the word gaslight's been like, I think the word gaslight's kind of just been shifting with how it's used lately. You know, it's been prior used in the context of making other people feel crazy, but now it's kind of getting to a point where we're kind of using it to reference when we kind of deny ourselves experiences, or acknowledging certain things within ourselves that will then make ourselves feel crazy or disoriented, or feel like we ourselves are not like in alignment because of the fact that we are like actively being blind to, or blinding ourselves to, like whatever experiences we have that we might just simply need to sit with and deal with in whatever way we can, versus just shoving everything down and trying to ignore everything. So a couple more. Then we have the Judgment card with the Seven of Cups on the bottom. So I find it funny. It's like, I think through my spiritual journey, what I've had to do is pretty much start tapping into both my spirit guides, but then other like aspects of myself. It's like, I wasn't somebody who really found solace in, I guess, working with deities, especially after coming out of like a really toxic religion. So for me, it's kind of like having to trust myself, having to trust what I would believe to be the future versions of myself, and even like my soul to the best of my capacity. It's like really trusting those alternate, like trusting the essence of who I am and how I would play it out, or how I would navigate certain situations. It's what allows me to get through them. I kind of think about like, okay, what is the ideal version of me doing? What would, if I was like a deity, if I was a higher power, if I was this, if I was that, how would I then navigate through these situations? And that's kind of how I move to the best of my ability. And the Judgment card with the Seven of Cups, it makes me feel like that's the energy, because the Judgment card is about trusting like our connection to, or it has a lot to do with rebirth as well, and transformation, which also has like overlaps with the Death and the Tower card, but it also has a lot to do with our connection to the divine. And that connection to the divine many times is also learning how to connect to ourselves. And when Aang, the avatar, has to connect to the other past avatars, he's still having to go inward. He's still connecting to past versions of essentially what he was, to then find this information and to figure out resolutions to whatever problems that there are. So I think really trusting who we are, trusting our soul, trusting all the signs that we get, trusting all the things that we experience, trusting the path that we're on, because we consciously are the ones who are walking this path. We know what we see. We know the signs we get. We know the communication that we have. And it's also important to know that sometimes things can still get distorted, muddled. We can still sometimes overread signs, misunderstand things. I'm not going to say as if, we want to entertain bad ideologies or realities that will then not give us the best benefit. But what I will say is, if you do have certain strong signs that are pushing you towards where you believe you need to be, then trust it. Especially if it's pushing you towards sovereignty and knowledge and love and growth and expansion and understanding. If those are the teachings, and I will, at least in my experience, those are the things that I believe will continue to expand us in the long run. But either way, peace and blessings, you guys, and I'll catch you in the next reading. This little awkward hand heart.